So D23 released a lot of new trailers and first looks at upcoming Disney projects. I am admittedly disappointed that it mostly looks like more remakes and sequels. Moana 2, Zootopia 2, Toy Story 5, Lilo and Stitch remake, and also Mufasa, which is a prequel specifically for the remake of The Lion King, rather than the original version of The Lion King. There's certainly a lot to go over. There was a time where these remakes were easily banking $1 billion at the box office, but I think that's no longer the case, and hasn't been for a while. To get some quick thoughts out of the way, we're getting Woody back in Toy Story 5, which I thought was pretty interesting, considering the way Toy Story 4 ended with him leaving the group. I don't really think Toy Story 5 is necessary. I didn't think 4 was necessary, honestly. At this point, it kind of feels like they're milking the franchise. But I do wonder how much of 4 will be acknowledged here. But this time around, the toys are worried about being replaced by electronics. I guess they're addressing the iPad kids. Although I feel like toys and electronics have been competing for a while, but it could still be interesting. Can't say I'm too excited though. We also got a first look at Stitch from Lilo and Stitch, and he looks okay, maybe a little uncanny, but I do think they have his movements down, which is something, especially compared to that Mickey Mouse interview. Everything about it looks off, from the design to the animation. I bet they overworked and underpaid the artists again, or at least I wouldn't be surprised. Speaking of which, they also released a trailer for Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, where the dwarves and the animals are all CGI, and honestly it looks so jarring. It doesn't mesh with the live action elements at all. At least they kept the Seven Dwarves in this cut. So this film was originally supposed to come out this year, but it got a huge amount of backlash, thanks to some questionable decisions that Disney made, and also some comments from the stars of the film that caused an uproar online. First of all, back when this remake was first announced, Peter Dinklage criticized it. He's a very prominent little person actor, and an activist for people with dwarfism, but he criticized Disney for claiming to be progressive and yet making Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs remake, a story that he insists promotes harmful stereotypes about dwarfism. In an interview, he said, "You're progressive in one way, but you're still making that backwards story of 7 dwarves living in a cave. What the F are you doing, man? Have I done nothing to advance the cause for my soapbox? I guess I'm not loud enough." Although that's hardly a fair assessment of the film. The dwarves don't live in a cave, they live in a cottage. They do work in a cave because they're miners, but that's not the same thing. Seemingly because of this criticism, Disney was planning on replacing the dwarves with 7 magical creatures, and this is what caused some of the initial backlash. Snow White and the 7 dwarves means a lot to a lot of people, and seeing this drastic change was too much for many of us. There were also many in the little people community who voiced that they did not agree with Dinklage, and it might just end up being him pulling the ladder up from behind him. That was 7 roles that could have gone to little people actors. Instead we get these uncanny valley CGI nightmares. I'm also not a huge fan of Snow White's costume here. It definitely looks better compared to the early shots we saw of it, but I still think it could use some work. Her hair is also pretty underwhelming. It's a short blunt bob. I'm not saying they had to give her the exact look like in the original, which was based off of styles that were trendy at the time, but they could have done a little bit more with this. Honestly, I've seen cosplayers do a better job, and they don't have a Disney budget. I think the Evil Queen looks pretty good, so there's that. It would have been nice if they had put the same effort into Snow White's design too. The trailer also shows her and the dwarves all cleaning up the cottage together, and I understand what they're trying to do, but I feel like they just don't understand Snow White and the 7 dwarves. Like they're falling back into that these movies need to be fixed mindset. Because Disney has gotten a lot of criticism over the years for promoting harmful stereotypes about women. But if you actually watch the original movie, it's very clear that Snow White just doesn't think that it's okay for her to have room and board without compensation.
We'll clean the house and surprise them. Then maybe they'll let me stay.
Which is actually pretty considerate of her considering the fact that she is a princess and she could just force them to do whatever she wants. I'm gonna make a video dedicated to Snow White once we get closer to the release date. But yeah, it just looks really corporate and I'm not excited for it. Then there's Mufasa. I'm immediately concerned because according to this trailer, Mufasa and Scar are not blood related. A choice many people were questioning, myself included. Here they say that they discovered Mufasa floating in a river, and that Scar, or in this case Taka since he doesn't have his scar yet, is the rightful heir to this pride.
Taka is the future king. We must protect the bloodline.
which changes the dynamic in the original Lion King, where the two are biological brothers, but Scar is so desperate for the throne that he's willing to kill his older brother just to get it. By making Mufasa adopted, it pretty much defeats the purpose. Now Scar does have a legitimate claim to the throne, one that Mufasa was somehow able to take from him. Once Mufasa is discovered, Taka immediately wants to adopt him into the family, but his pride, including his parents, insists that they don't associate with outsiders. But Taka vouches for him, and the two become close as brothers and best friends. I understand what they're going for, the tragedy having these two brothers be so close but ultimately falling out, and Taka becoming Scar. There's a scene where it looks like the same tree from Mufasa's death, which would again play into that tragedy. The area seems vibrant and full of life and water, but in the future it's dry and desolate, and it goes from young Mufasa and Taka playing there together to Taka eventually throwing him off a cliff. Granted, I could be wrong with this interpretation of the trailer. We'll have to wait and see. But I think they could have accomplished that without making them adopted. I'm already not sure if anyone was asking for this, especially for it to be so far off from the original. They seem to be fighting another pride made up of white lions, and people were making a bunch of Kimba the White Lion jokes, which was pretty funny. I don't really believe that The Lion King was a ripoff of Kimba. I think it really is just Macbeth but with lions, but it's still funny to joke about. As for Moana and Zootopia 2, I do think those films can work, and people have been asking for them. Although I am a little worried about Moana. Allegedly the production started as a TV series, but was repurposed to be a film, so hopefully they'll be able to make that work. I do think the trailer we got had a lot of charm to it. And as for Zootopia, I think it'd be cool to see more adventures with Nick and Judy. Although I guess fish aren't considered animals in this world, or at least not citizens. Not entirely sure how that works, but it would be interesting to explore more of Zootopia, so I'm pretty excited for these ones. So while there are a lot of projects in the works, I hope we get quality over quantity. So those are my thoughts on Disney's upcoming projects. What do you guys think? Are there any movies you're excited for? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, everyone. I really appreciate it. Before I go, I want to give a shout out to our members: Tyrant Carnivore, Shiny Orc Boy, General Bolivar, Depth Charge Media, Samaru163, Gabby Hime, Verdant Range, JVR, Phil C, Taylor Ramirez, Equestron, Norman Sweet Cream, Way Beyond Coincidence, Hunter Rose, 80s Nostalgia Guy, Felix Bam, Lucas Geis, Jay Draws, Meowsers, Sky, Philip, Isaac Martinez, Garcia XV Legend, Tobias Weller, Bandito Bane, Mac B909, Crimson Phantom, Dakari the Professor, Owen Wildish, Jin the Goblin, Datadyne Executive, Caleb Nelson, Todd McCaffrey, Killer Bomb. Thank you all so much for your support. If you would like to become a member, you can hit the join button next to the subscribe button. We also have Buy Me Coffee if you want to support us that way. And if you enjoyed this content, you can leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel, and that part's free. I'd really appreciate the support. But thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.